Denise at Something Beautiful Handcrafts, and welcome to the Doll Studio. Okay, so um, if you are looking at this and you're looking for a video about cute doll dresses, this really is not it. Just in case you haven't seen any of my previous videos, the whole purpose of me making these dresses is part of my exploration through the history of dress. So there's going to be more detail in these videos than just sewing cute outfits. And they could get a little long, so I'm just warning you. And if you're not a student of fashion history, they could be a little boring. But if you're still watching, let's go ahead on. Okay, so right now I'm in the 1700s. And this is Kit Kittredge, which you can't, well, you probably could tell. If you zoom in real close, you can see her blue eyes and the freckles. But she has a completely different wig on. If you watch the Kit Kittredge video, then you know that I replaced her wig. And so as I go through the centuries, she's going to have different dues. Okay, we have Felicity over there, and this is her century. So she's dressed in what she normally would be dressed in. And this is Kirsten. And this is not her century. Her century is coming soon, but I needed a third doll, so I stuck her here. And Kirsten is a little problematic because she's got bangs. And when I tried to style her hair in the pompadour, I forgot these bangs kind of got in the way. And she can't fit the wigs that Kit can because she's a Pleasant Company doll. So just kind of ignore her hair. I could have put the hat on her. I should have put the hat on her. At any rate, okay, so I'm not going to talk about Felicity's outfit because she actually has her own separate video. So you can find the link to Felicity's own video. I'll put that down below in the description. Let's start with Kit. Okay, so the gown that Kit is wearing was modeled after a 1710 gown that was made for Queen Anne out of brown silk with embroidered flowers. This particular gown is made in 2 pieces, and normally gowns of this particular time frame would have been front closing gowns with the stomacher right here that either pinned at the sides or pinned straight down the middle. I can't say if this particular gown in its construction was made to close in the back because there is some extant gown or pattern that I couldn't find that shows gowns closing in the back, or whether or not it was done for the ease of the person making the gown in the future. So I'm still looking for that. But if I had really known that when I started, I would have made a front closing gown like the Christmas gown over there. But at any rate, it's still pretty nice. It's got the stomacher coming to the tapered point and stiffened with the interfacing, so it kind of gives you that nice structured look. And then there's the trim across the top and the matching trim and the peplums on the side. Now, Queen Anne's gown was made originally of silk, and of course this one is not, but it's just kind of to give you kind of silky texture. And instead of putting interfacing on these gowns, what I did is I doubled the fabric to give it that heavy, crisp feel, as opposed to Kirsten's gown in the back, which isn't doubled. I'm not even sure. Well, you know, if I put them side by side, you probably could tell the difference for the stiffening. Okay, now what's really important was a couple things that are important. Sleeve length, but what's really important here is the skirt. That's going to take a little work. Let me show you that. You can go ahead and take off her hat. Her hat, well, Felicity's hat has the ribbons under that tie to the brim. It's got a little decoration on the top. I haven't decorated this hat yet, but if I had, it would be decorated with all kind of pretty flowers and ribbons and very ornate. And that's one of the things that drove me crazy about the 1700s, how ornate everything is. And it's kind of tedious in such a tiny little doll. This is Kirsten's cap before I show you the gown. And actually, this sheer fabric was from a leftover sheer curtain that I had. And it draws in the back here. Okay, so it's time to take Kirsten apart. I'm going to take off the bodice. And get to the cool part of the outfit. Kirsten has a fichu on, as would be traditional for the ladies. And in this case, this bodice is fully lined. In this case, she has on a short sleeve shift. All my dolls have on shifts because it's historically correct. Besides, they need something under their clothing. It's only short sleeve because the shift pattern that I have is for the Pleasant Company American Girl dolls. And this outfit was not designed to fit the extra material underneath. Felicity has on a full shift. I can't remember if Kirsten has on a full shift or not, but the patterns weren't designed because of the difference in thickness of the arms of the Pleasant Company dolls. It's like a 1/4 inch, but when you're talking about fabric and patterns, a 1/4 inch is a lot. So because of that, there's only a few of the dolls. Addie has a full shift on that actually have sleeved shifts. That way I can accommodate for the clothing that I made prior to making the shifts. Also, I gotta say that that's not historically inaccurate because there are some instances of different sleeve lengths. Okay, so anyway, let's have a look at this one. You can see how this dress puffs out on the sides, and that's because she is wearing the panniers of the 1700s, which is what really drew me to this dress because panniers are just so cool. I'm gonna go ahead and take this off. She's pinned into this dress because I never did put the ties on this guy. And actually, in order to get it on and off of her, because of the panniers, I had to pull it over her head. And if you've ever seen the dressing of gowns that everybody on YouTube, the historical costumers, have all these get dressed videos, and basically, yeah, a lot of times they pull the gown, comes over the top of the head. That was the best way to get it on. Okay, so here these guys are. They're wrinkled, but hey, they're underwear. And I had a seriously interesting time constructing these. Okay, so they have saddles on the side. And after constructing the saddles, they put the panels of the panniers together. I'll take it all the way around. And they're tied on the back with string. When possible, I'm going to use ties to put on the historical garments and hooks in some places when it becomes so, to make them as historically accurate as possible. No Velcro. And you know what? Velcro plays havoc with the girl's hair anyway, so I'm not a big Velcro fan. So I've replaced any instructions Velcro with ties and snaps when it is historically accurate to do so. The top of this pannier is stiffened with zip tie to simulate boning channel. I know there's a lot of historical costumers who use zip ties and place in the boning channels. And so I have a lot of them. And then down here at the bottom are zip ties. And kind of gives it that poofy look. And then underneath, of course, she has her shift. Don't want to expose a poor girl. And her socks with the garters. What I'd like to do, I haven't really gotten around to it yet, is make clock patterns on the socks. And I haven't decided whether I'm going to put an embroidery patch, actually do the hand embroidery, but what I more likely will do is stamp them with my ink stamps, like this. Here's her pocket, and it's stamped with one of my stamps. And so that's probably more likely what I will wind up doing in order to give it that clocked look. And those are her layers. Kit is basically put back together, sort of, and it's Kirsten's turn. Okay, I just want to say this about Kirsten. Initially, American Girl dolls were sold in catalogs, and you just kind of, when you read names, especially an avid book reader like myself, you're reading these books, you're reading these names, you're reading a lot of stuff, and there's just so many words that you read that you don't actually ever hear anybody say out loud. And so you don't really know how to pronounce them, but you do the best phonetic job that you possibly can. And Kirsten is one of those. There aren't a lot of people named Kirsten. And you kind of look at it and you go, is that Kristen? Is that Kirsten? And so what I've been doing with the American Girl dolls is actually going to the American Girl doll YouTube channel where they introduce the stories of the dolls and listen to the way that they pronounce the names. So then I know what the names are supposed to sound like, because I've heard all kind of YouTube videos say Kirsten, all kind of stuff, Kristen. And when you listen to the American Girl doll video, they call her Kirsten, which is great for me because I actually know someone named Kirsten. When I was in college, I met a young lady who, she fits the bill. She's blonde, blue-eyed, tall, and from Scandinavian descent, and her name is Kirsten. And she was born before the American Girl dolls were made, but it's just really cool. So basically, I bought Kirsten because she reminds me of Kirsten. And Kirsten, if you ever watch this video, because Kirsten is still one of my Facebook friends, yeah, I really did buy this doll because she reminds me of you. So here's my Kirsten. And she's wearing Felicity's Christmas gown. Okay. That was the other pattern I had in the 1700s. And Felicity is supposed to be around the 1770s. So we just made a big jump from 1710s to 1770s. And I've seen some videos about people recreating Felicity's gown and how historically accurate it is. And it's not a bad gown, okay? I have, in my Something Beautiful Handcrafts Pinterest board for the 18 and 1900s, I have several examples of yellow gowns that pretty much look a lot like this. And if I was a better videographer, I would cut to a B-roll where you would see this example, museum example of this yellow gown. And I would discuss the difference between Felicity's gown and the extant yellow gowns. But I haven't gotten that good yet. And I just take a lot of time. So I'm just going to kind of chat about it. Okay, so firstly, yes, this looks a lot like the French gown in its construction. Let me just point out the big difference in the French gown. If this was a French gown, okay, it's definitely not a Polonaise gown, and it's not an English gown, okay, because it is not closed in the front the way the English gown would be for that category. It doesn't have the skirt quite like the Polonaise gown should. So this should be something that looks like the French gown. What we're missing here is the sack back. Okay, there should be a sack back with box pleats, and I was not making the box pleats, so what I actually did was just put a pleat along the back to give that illusion. Now I looked and I looked and I looked, and I was trying to find out whether this was a thing that was done. Then last night I came upon a blog where it actually shows the separate bodice and skirt, and then the pleat actually put in over top of that coming down. So yes, and I'll put a link to that below. So yes, this is a thing that was done. And what the blog writer said is that they wore a split bum roll, because if it was a single bum roll like we have here, it pushes the pleat away from the gown, makes them look separate. But a split bum roll would not, so that the pleat would lay closer to the bodice and look like it was continuous, like a sack gown would. So I am okay, and I am still relatively historically correct. Now, Kirsten is not wearing a bum roll in this case. I have a bum roll. I still haven't found it, so I'm probably going to have to make a new bum roll. But it just so happens that the way that the petticoat, she has a petticoat, an underskirt and a petticoat. And so that kind of puffs it out anyway, because Felicity's outfits were made to accommodate Felicity's bum roll that came with the undergarment set. So she has the extra fabric back here for that, so it puffs out regardless. Ooh, now Kirsten's gonna fall over. I've crossed her all up. Let me put Kirsten on a stand so that she doesn't topple over. They don't want to stand. They don't want to go on the stand. They're not quite accustomed yet to being fashion dolls. Okay, here we go. Okay, now, so the first thing I'm going to do is pick this apart. What I am missing on this particular gown is the 18th century trim that comes all along down here. Let me tell you, that trim was a pain in the neck. It just was a pain in the neck. The trim around the arms, the trim on the stomacher that I have not finished. All that was a pain in the neck. This particular fabric was hard to work with. It was hard to get that ruching right. And so when it comes to the end, I did not put that trim along the edge. I'm looking for some yellow ribbon, which I hope would be easier to handle, and then I will finish off the gown. So that would be pretty accurate. The lace at the sleeves is also very accurate as well. Lace at the top. Felicity's pattern comes with two different stomachers, a lace stomacher and a ribbon-ish stomacher. The lace stomacher, I want to say it's more accurate for a later date than Felicity's date. The trim like this that would match her dress, side of her outer gown, and the sleeves is a more accurate stomacher than this lace actually is. Okay, this is her underskirt. Now I have to take her off the stand in order to show you her underskirt. All right, when I did Felicity's gown, I didn't quite understand how that was supposed to work, but now I do. So Felicity has the single split on the side of her gown in order to reach her pockets. Okay. I didn't actually make a specific pocket for this outfit yet. I still haven't made the pinner cap. So I kind of put this outfit in time out until I get the ribbon for the side. But as you can see, there is a split here and a split here to accommodate Felicity's pockets, which are also part of her undergarment set, which I've been looking for years, and when I find it, it'll probably be $200 or $300. Has a pair of double pockets, and so her outfits accommodate that. We have the under petticoat, or maybe this is the petticoat, and this is the outer gown. And they also have the slit for the pockets, and they tie on the side, on both sides. And to add a little more historical accuracy to this dress, I started adding the trim. And when you see the pictures of the under petticoats of the 18th century, you will also see all that trim that's around the sleeves, the trims on the stomacher, the trim around the outside of the gown. That trim is also designed on the petticoat to show through. And then I'm just going to lift it up here. She has another petticoat underneath. Okay, so she doesn't have any panniers. We're not doing that. She should have a bum roll on there, but for the most part, the extra volume of the skirt in these cases would be extra petticoats. So you would have on more than one stiffened petticoat. And I think even though I am moving out of the 1700s, I probably could use at the beginning, well, the middle of the 1800s. I think I might make a quilted petticoat, or at least a stiffened petticoat, to go underneath some of these dresses just to give it a little extra poof. Okay, which is not to be confused with crinoline. That is something totally different for the later, or I should say the middle of the 1800s, and we'll get to that later. Kirsten has on her socks, her stockings. She does not have any garters on. She needs garters. But they all have on socks because we're not into the tights. I took all the tights off all the dolls and gave them to my niece. Okay, so that's just hopefully that was brief walk through of the 1700s outfits that I made for these girls. This is in no wise comprehensive. I'm pretty sure that you can put in the comments all kind of things that I missed, I didn't say, or how I generalize things. Yeah, I did, because I'm just kind of skimming through the 1700s, and there is a lot to say. And I didn't want a super long video. And my passion is really not in the 1700s. It's really in the 1800s and early 1900s. So when you see those videos, it'll be obvious how much time I took to study those particular time periods, those eras, and what they wore in their garments. So hopefully some of this was of interest to you. Look down in the description for the links to some of the reference pictures that I used. And I just want to thank you guys for taking time out of your busy schedule for watching, and hopefully I am improving. I'm really working on it in my spare time, and I hope to see you soon. Have a great day.